Today on Power Charting, we will be at the intersection of cryptocurrencies and the Wyckoff method. We have a very special guest today, Alessio Rutigliano, and Alessio is going to talk to us about the cryptocurrency markets. Alessio, welcome.
Hi, Bruce. So glad to be here today.
You were a huge hit the last time you were here, which was all the way back in June of last year. So that's my fault. That's been way too long. And the cryptocurrency markets are so fascinating right now.
Absolutely. There's so much momentum, and we want to understand this ecosystem from the Wyckoff perspective. So fascinating.
Well, we're so glad you're here to talk about that. And so we're going to take a second and we're going to switch screens and put Alessio in charge of this, and we'll get started. So just hang on for just a second.
So before starting our journey into crypto assets today, we have an announcement, a very special announcement.
Ooh, I like that.
So in the last 4 months, Wyckoff Analytics has produced a free weekly webinar on crypto markets. Every Thursday in the Wyckoff Crypto Discussion, we explore cryptos through the lens of the Wyckoff method. But in addition to that, this week we just launched a new project, the Wyckoff Crypto Trading Lab.
Wow.
This is a Discord channel where we publish almost on a daily basis flash updates on cryptos. And Roman Bogomazov is recording short video updates. I'm working on the selection, indexes, and so on. So we are still in the beta mode for now, but please join the group. It will be free until March.
And so they would go down to this web address that's at the bottom there to go in and become a member.
Absolutely. You can also scan the QR code with your phone, so it's very easy. So please join us. And
now I have to say, Alessio, that you do a fantastic written blog, which you write on a regular basis, and you also do vlogs, video blogs. So I just want people to know about that. So can you tell people how to get to your written blogs and your video blogs?
Yes, it's all on Wyckoff Analytics website, but we'll share all this content through the Discord channel. So basically, this is one place you get all the content here. That's fantastic.
Very good. It's certainly one of my favorite reads is to not only read your take on the crypto markets, but also your incredible Wyckoff analysis, which I think is exceptional. So, and you're going to do some of that for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, you are too kind, Bruce.
Well, I'm just thrilled that, as a matter of fact, our blogs are on the same page at Wyckoff Analytics. So I think that's wonderful. So maybe when they get done reading yours, they'll go look at mine. So,
that's great.
Anyway, so the stage is all yours, Alessio. What do you have for us today?
So now let's jump right into the content. So the big question is, how do we apply the Wyckoff methodology to cryptos? And today I want to show you our process, and we'll review together many interesting case studies. So on this chart, we have Bitcoin and Chainlink, another very popular crypto asset, a large cap crypto, which has shown leadership characteristics in the current cycle. And many crypto traders really love small caps because in a bull market, they tend to show significant outperformance. We know that the relationship between small caps and Bitcoin, which is a commodity, also a kind of money of account of the crypto ecosystem, is well known. And when you get a move, for example, in gold or whatever it's being mined, that move can produce a multiple leverage in the gold mining stocks. And Bruce has shown this principle countless times. The same principles can be applied to cryptos. However, at the same time, low liquidity instruments are generally the first to fall when market conditions are deteriorating. So in the previous bull cycle, 90% of cryptos had experienced tremendous corrections at the end of the cycle. So this is an environment where you really want to have, want to think like a trader, not just an investor. So Wyckoffians really love analogs. And this chart is one of the most powerful analog that we have shown in our discussions. Chainlink has been the market leaders in the last 3 years, and once rotation has occurred from Chainlink to Bitcoin, the structure of Chainlink was clearly showing us the path. So what do you see on this chart? The COVID shakeout on Chainlink shows comparative strength, and the whole structure has a much better volume and price characteristics. Then, as price reaches the top of the capitulation bar, supply is extremely exhausted. Look at that prolonged period of absorption in June. And Bruce, I remember that in that period, you were showing the same kind of absorption on Tesla in our Wednesday class. So let's continue. Yeah, please go on.
So well, it's very evident here that you can see that. And of course, the acceleration up into the leadership, the acceleration up into a reaccumulation type structure is so interesting, which I'm sure you're going to talk about how Bitcoin then takes the lead again. So this is very interesting.
Absolutely. So let's continue to explore this analog. The up move that has occurred in Chainlink until September 2020 had the same characteristics of what we have seen in Bitcoin during the last quarter of 2020. So remember that we are watching here two logarithmic charts. So all these up moves are really significant and fast. So what happens next? Profit taking occurs in NASDAQ and the whole stock market consolidates. Look what happens here. Capitals rotate into Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was a successful bet on the weakness of the dollar at the time. And this is typical bull market in cryptos. You have mid caps, small caps that are generally correlated with NASDAQ, and then Bitcoin, which is a commodity, so an alternative currency investment, that is inversely correlated with the dollar. And crypto funds love so much these dynamics. Remember that still today, there are high fees to enter this market for institutional funds. The bank infrastructure for Bitcoin is still very, very young. And this market, by the way, is way more liquid than 3 years ago, but it's still thin compared to traditional assets. Also, the structure of money market funds operating in crypto, especially in Asia, is very peculiar. For this reason, crypto funds love all these rotational dynamics because in this way, they can put their capital at work without leaving the ecosystem. So what's happening right now? Bitcoin is still consolidating because in this way, basically, we can see that profit taking, consolidation, and capitals are probably in Chainlink. So your remarks, Bruce.
Yes. Sorry, say it again.
We are seeing some kind of rotation in Chainlink from Bitcoin to Chainlink, and look at we are probably in the end of this consolidation, where this trend is coming back. The last rally is good volume, and volume is decreasing on the last reaction, suggesting that we are in a potential backing up action.
It's very interesting the way that Chainlink is consolidating in a very tight and ever narrowing range up here, while Bitcoin is suffering some type of a reaction. And so that really, even in the last few trading sessions, it looks very compelling up in Chainlink.
So we want to just wait for a final confirmation to the upside in this case. And sometimes timing is quite tricky in the crypto space because when Bitcoin is lagging, it still has such a big market cap compared to other assets that any selling pressure can temporarily trigger more selling in the altcoin market too. And especially young traders that are attracted by ultra low caps should really keep in mind all these dynamics.
So so you would call Chainlink a small cap compared to Bitcoin?
Well, it's still a large cap. However, Bitcoin has a massive market capitalization. So yes, we have to keep in mind this information when
now, do you have
trade.
I don't want to take you off your path here, but do you have a reasoning that you can see for the rotation that's occurring between, say, Chainlink and Bitcoin? Is this just that you have participants that are just continually using relative strength characteristics to rotate their assets back and forth between these different types of cryptos?
Yes, crypto funds use relative strength a lot, like institutional funds are in the world. So basically, it's the same principle that we use in the stock market. You can apply right away on the crypto market. So fascinating, so fascinating. And we have an example of this the last slide today. So
carry on.
This is a beautiful chart that Bruce has published on his blog.
Well, thank you for that. Thanks for putting that up.
So Bruce, so many participants in the group are intrigued by the point of figure technique. So can you explain to our audience the main idea behind this chart?
Well, so here, this is just the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which trades on the US exchanges. GBTC is the symbol, and there's a really a dramatic reaccumulation type structure, which is in the yellow shaded box there. And Grayscale had built a beautiful, what we could describe as a reaccumulation type structure. And I just did a simple 3-box reversal method using traditional scaling and counted that across the all the way to where the climactic surge had occurred, and then the reaction began in 2019 to 2020, mid 2020. Well, actually September. And look at that beautiful count. And so just this, classic traditional counting method, and it took us right up to this $46 to $50.50 price objective range. And so, I just thought that chart was literally needed to be counted. It was sitting there going, count me, because there's a huge cause here. And that would be the point I would make to the crypto traders, is look at what a great, powerful tool point and figure analysis is in this market space, because subsequently getting into that count objective range set up the beginning of an important least consolidation, maybe not a really deep reaction, but an important consolidation in the crypto space. So, and that would be what I would have to say about this.
That's fantastic. It's a really great case study, Bruce. And also we can just think here of a confirming count for larger structure, which is, so that would be a very, very interesting case study. And we will do that in the future.
Yes. So, well, my goal is to have you come back at least a couple times per quarter, if not more often, based on your assessment of the crypto space. So I would love to get you back, and we can do more of these studies, and we'll do them together.
Great. So this is the Grayscale Investment Trust, which is a well-known Bitcoin proxy. But Bruce, now the question is, can we apply the same techniques to crypto assets? So
are you going to answer that question for us?
So here's the PNF chart of Chainlink that we've just seen. This is the bull run that we had last year until that wall of supply that came into the market in early September has created another big reaccumulation structure.
Wow,
And
that's fantastic.
so what do you see on this chart? A beautiful accumulation base, two targets from the lower from the count line. In this way, we define the area where we should expect a change of behavior. And look at the target, it's very accurate. So a student from the Wyckoff lab is asking here, can we apply the same technique on the intraday? So yes, it's definitely possible. We will show more case studies in the future, but in the meanwhile, I strongly recommend to study Bruce's work. Bruce has produced so much content to this topic and his webinars are just fantastic.
Alessio, you just keep talking. Thank you for that kind comment.
So now let's review the sectors here. These crypto indexes offered by FTX track the main crypto sector. And it's quite important to say that these indexes are not just calculation. They are future contracts of real basket of crypto assets. They are not available in US, but they are very popular in Europe and Asia. So what do we have here? Small caps, DeFi, decentralized finance sector, which has been one of the leading sectors, as you can see in the last months. And we are not advocate of any projects. We are here to study rotation and leadership. So look at the pattern here on the DeFi index. We have inactivity at the bottom of the chart, followed by really aggressive absorption on the way up. And this pattern is so typical of low caps, low liquidity instruments. Institutions and momentum followers are not participating when price is low, but as these assets start to show some relative outperformance, they come into the market and they accept higher prices. So today's bar show that supply is coming in. So we see some effort versus result. So there is some supply, but we have to see if absorption occurs in this level. If a reaction takes place here, that could be a very interesting opportunity to look for rotation. And the small cap and mid cap are already in a very interesting position. So now let's see other potential candidates in the current market. Look at this huge base on Binance, a major player in the crypto ecosystem. Look at the volume signature. It's very rare to find assets with such a pronounced institutional interest in the crypto world. And when we talk about institutional interest, we are not necessarily talking about Wall Street. There are hundreds of crypto funds today that are operating in this ecosystem, especially in Asia. So we have two segments here, and look at the relative strength that the asset was showing in 2019. Then heavy profit taking comes, we build another structure, and now while Bitcoin is still in the trading range, price is jumping up and out of this multi-year structure. What do you think about this chart, Bruce?
Well, it's fantastic. And the thing that stands out to me is, as we have talked about in the past about accumulation, reaccumulation structures, is that the volatility tends to come out of a reaccumulation structure, if we were to call this such, is you can see that happening here. Look at the period into the end of the second quarter there at July. Look at the volume come out and the volume diminish as prices correct on a very tight, narrow range before an important uptrend begins. So this is the kind of characteristic we see in the stock market and we see in other asset classes, and it's also very true of the crypto space. So that would be the only thing I would say here is just it's fantastic. And then you can see that backing up action there around October in the fourth quarter, where it is very dull and quiet, volume dries up as it's reacting, and then a beautiful uptrend begins. So looks like the beginning of an important rising trend.
Great. So here is a PNF chart, one box size, three box reversal. So I like this structure because it really reminds me of the big trading range of the S&P before COVID. So that was a big potential accumulation structure that has been derailed by the pandemic. And we have two segments here, and we are still early in the structure, but potentially, Bruce, there's a lot of count here.
Oh my.
So as usual, we want to count step by step using the guidelines that Professor Pruden gave to us, but this is very interesting.
Very. And so would you consider point and figure to be one of your really important tools in the analysis of the crypto space?
Absolutely. I love point and figure charts.
And of course, not that many people use them. Are you finding that there's much use of point and figure in crypto?
Well, we have to teach them, Bruce. We have to teach them.
Well, you're doing a good job.
So let's finish this Wyckoff marathon together. Another interesting structure is Ethereum. And CME will launch the Ethereum futures contract on Monday. So that's a very interesting catalyst. So I don't think that we will see a lot of volume in the next weeks. General institutional participation in this kind of new instruments is more gradual. But whatever price action will develop here, there's no doubt that the introduction of regulated US futures, not just for Bitcoin, but also for other big caps, is a quantum leap for this ecosystem. And we all remember the crazy volatility that the introduction of Bitcoin futures has produced in 2017.
Yes.
So what do you see here in Wyckoff terms? Two accumulations in 2017, a distributional TP top, a brutal downtrend, price collapsed to $80. Gosh, this is logarithmic chart. So look at the downtrend of low volume signature. It's quite weird, but this is something typical of immature low liquidity markets. And 2018 was a terrible year for crypto. As the S&P went to risk-off mode, creating the multi-year structure that we've seen in the last 3 years, liquidity in the crypto space just disappeared. And then what happens? A classic accumulation structure. It will just fulfilled an important target. Supply is emerging on the all-time high. This is a place where we want to see signs of absorption at work. And for now, volume is still contracting. Also, look at the relative strength ratio here. Ethereum against Bitcoin. So we are trying to jump up and out of this big base. And I think that this chart is very interesting, Bruce, but the context of market is very important as well. So what are your remarks on this chart, Bruce?
Well, I always think of relative strength as being a case where you want confirmation of relative strength rising to the price of the underlying instrument rising. And so in fact, we do have that when the clue that I think is so interesting is there in the early part of 2020, you have an attempt to go down to support on price on Ethereum, and you're getting higher lows on the relative strength, which I think is a very subtle but important clue that Ethereum is rising into a leadership position against Bitcoin. And so now you can really see that uptrend and the completion of an important relative strength base. So that looks very constructive to me.
And it's possible to create a PNF count for on the relative strength chart for yes, possible, and it works. It works.
I love to do that, and so I hope. Do you have one for us to show us?
Not today, but next time.
You're such a tease. Well, I do absolutely think, and what I tend to do is, and my question about Bitcoin as the denominator in a relative strength calculation is it best to use Bitcoin itself, or do you use a blend of cryptos as the index, so to speak, that you measure one crypto asset against, like a blend, or do you always use Bitcoin as the denominator?
I generally do both, but
Mm-hmm.
relative strength against Bitcoin is very interesting because Bitcoin is also considered kind of money of account in this ecosystem. So it makes sense.
Let me ask you one other question. I don't want to steal your thunder, but because we only have about 4 minutes left, is do you ever do Bitcoin or crypto relative strength against the say the S&P 500?
Yes, that's a very fascinating topic because we have done this in our blog many months ago, and the relative strength chart was giving a great signal on the first sign of the emergence of the uptrend for Bitcoin. So that was absolutely fantastic, and basically I learned this in your Wyckoff market discussion. So thanks, Bruce.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. So I'll look at any asset class against, say, the S&P 500, especially if it tends to be leading, because this is such an important asset that money gets allocated to, as the U.S. stock market, or it could be other international stock markets. So I believe that doing crypto to stocks, it could be a very successful exercise for this type of analysis. So anyway, but please continue.
Yes, well, I strongly believe that all these new assets, Bruce, are not just very interesting trading instruments and opportunity, but they also represent a great opportunity to learn and practice the Wyckoff methodology. And this is what we're going to do in the next weeks and months in our Wyckoff crypto trading lab. And you can also send your questions about the methodology, your candidates, and so on. And Bruce, we have received so many questions about point and figure charts. So many questions.
Well, you're so good with point and figure. You're very accomplished. But if there's any way that I can help the community at all with this, I'd be very excited to be able to help.
Thank you, Bruce.
So with that, just on this Discord, because I'm not familiar with it, so people sign up for this and then they can go in every day into the lab, and then are they interacting with other people that are also in the same lab looking at crypto?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a market update section where people can quickly check out the market update. So we have video update with slides, flashcards with content on, for example, assets that are in making a position, so on. But also a chat for people that just want ask their question or just show us a candidate, possible candidate. So we will create a swing trading watch list for crypto asset, and that's very interesting thing.
Well, it sounds like just a wonderful venue, place to share ideas, and honestly, Alessio, you are just a true trendsetter in this space, and you're doing just such wonderful work, and you're really very innovative. And so the whole community thanks you for your work in crypto and Wyckoff, and we look forward to just doing a lot more power charting with you and other venues too. So with that, Alessio, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much for having me today. It's always fun to discuss this market with you.
Wonderful. And we will see you again soon. You take
Great.
care, my friend.
Take care, Bruce.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.